So in the last part, I forgot to mention a couple other species that inhabit the shaded area here along the Hocking River. So there's 3 more I want to mention before we move on. So this is yellow seed false pimpernel, which is the common name. It is a very long common name, but this is a native annual spreading, like sprawling, with opposite leaves. And it grows in wetland environments, but this has since spread to rice paddies, and it's a serious invasive weed across the world in rice paddies because it's the perfect growing environment, and it's an annual, and it makes lots of seed. So right next to it we have growing a very interesting one. This is Eastern Black Nightshade, and this is very much a true nightshade and very poisonous. So here's the flower on it. It's a Solanaceae. And there's the fruit. They're not ripe yet. But this is a native nightshade. It's bird dispersed, like most nightshades, but it's very poisonous to humans. And it's not very common. I do see it sometimes in disturbed environments, but it's not that common at all. But it's a Solanaceae, like that datura I showed in the last video. Same family. And then the last one is called ditch Stonecrop here. It's in flower. There's the flowers. And it is native. It has alternate leaves. And it's got this kind of umbel almost. It's not in the Apiaceae, but kind of an umbel of flowers at the top. And it's a native wetland species as well. So, coming down, we have a lot of more exposed environment, a lot more sun. So a lot of these plants have C4 photosynthesis, which is a different synthetic pathway that lets plants in exposed environments get kind of ahead of its competition. So it photosynthesizes really fast during the growing season and kind of slows off during the spring and fall. So it can grow very, very quickly during the hot and dry summer season. So this has evolved multiple times in different plant families, and I'll show you a couple plants that have evolved it. So here is a knotweed. Separate from that discussion, this looks like pale knotweed, but knotweeds are pretty hard to tell. A lot of them are native, a lot of them are invasive, and they're pretty hard to distinguish even with the flowers on them. But that is pretty much always in wetland environments as well. And it's pretty ubiquitous. There are several other species here with pink flowers that are invasive, but I'm pretty sure that one is native. So here we have probably the weirdest name of any plant. It's lance leaf frogfruit. Here's the flower on it. And this is a native perennial. It's a wetland species. It's got opposite leaves and it's sprawling. And what more can you say about it? It's lance leaf frogfruit. I'm not sure where that name comes from. I think it's from some French translation or something. I don't know. But it's a pretty fucking stupid name. And then here we have Apios americana, which is the American groundnut. This is an edible tuber that was eaten by Native Americans. It's a legume, so it has these compound leaves in fives. And it's got these little nuts underground. And it has really pretty flowers. And this is also a wetland species. There's not much of it here. It usually climbs up grasses or taller shrubs. And it's a perennial. So we have species of bindweed here with seed pods on it. I don't see that much around here, but you see it sometimes. And this is probably the most interesting plant of this whole environment, which is stupidly named Redwhisker Clammyweed. It's actually in the Cleomasiae, which is a newly created family. I'm sure you've seen its relatives, the spider flowers. They're pretty common in gardens nowadays, and it looks like a legume almost, but it is not. It's in the Cleomasiae, its own family. It's got like almost a succulent stem there. This is an annual, or usually an annual, sometimes perennial, but here it looks like it's an annual. I don't know, it's got a kind of woody root there. It might be a perennial. But the entire plant kind of smells like rotting celery whenever you touch it. And I got some stuff on my hands earlier from it. It's got these really pretty four-petaled flowers. This is actually related to brassicas of anything. I kind of see the resemblance. I mean, brassicas have seed pods. These are projected upward, whereas true cleomes are projected downward always, or outward. And this is native. It's not a legume. It's more related to, like, say, cabbage and broccoli than it is to the legumes, which is pretty weird to think about. But it is loving this exposed environment. Very hot sand, probably 120 degree sand here. It's 94 degrees out today, and it's thriving. It's got these hairy seed pods with a couple seeds in it, and it's got this milky sap. That's why it's called clammy weed, because, yeah, my hands are getting clammy. And it smells like rotting celery, like I said, which is kind of unpleasant, but worth the flowers, worth the show. It's an amazing plant, and it's native to the eastern U.S. So plant this shit if you have a garden. That's probably the biggest specimen I've seen today, but there are some smaller ones. Here's one, and it loves the exposed environments. Full sun, very little water. I guess we're next to a river, but it's upstream a little bit, and it's not getting too much water. Probably has a very deep root in this sand. It's constantly shifting and being blown away. So up here we have some more scrub, some willow, and an overstory of silver maple, which are both native, very fast growing wetland species of trees. There's another gourd, shit gourd, I'll call them, from the last video. And up here, there are a couple more species I want to show you. There's actually hops. That is the hops that go in your beer, which has escaped cultivation right over here. And it flavors beer. What more can you say about it? It's hops. Everybody knows hops. So here's a brassica. Actually, not sure what species that is. Most likely invasive. Most brassicas are from Europe that are cultivated. And here is the hops. Almost like a buckeye leaf, but it has two more. Palmately compound. And it's a twining vine. Kind of thick stems, actually. Here. There's the fruits. Or not yet. Fruits haven't been made yet. But it's climbing up this ragweed. Pretty prolific. but it's not everywhere. It's not out of control, but it is. I'm fairly sure that is Japanese hops, which is invasive. But there is a species of hops that is native to eastern North America, or a subspecies of the cultivated variety that is native. So here we have what looks to be Allegheny Monkeyflower from the last video. Yeah, I think that's Allegheny. Might be sharp wing because the leaves are sessile. They have no petiole connecting them to the stem. Here's the flower. It's a wetland environment plant. And I really want to show you the species of amaranth. Here it is. So this, like most amaranths, clusterfuck of a genus, this has alternate leaves, and this inflorescence is not very thick. I mean, this is a tiny plant. This is an annual. It makes hundreds of seeds. It's got a little red root there you can see on that rock. And the roots are red on a lot of amaranths, and it has these tiny, you probably can't see them without a hand lens. It's got these tiny little hairs on it, on the stem. This one is not in flower, but it's about to be, and there's the top of the flower stalk. So this is either smooth pigweed or red root pigweed. It's very hard to tell. I think this is smooth pigweed, but ironically it does have hair, a little bit of hair on it. But they both look very similar, and they're both native to eastern North America. So here is an interesting one, very interesting. This is a parasitic plant. It's called dodder. It's got these orange stems on it. And this is seen a lot. I see this a lot canoeing down the river. And it kind of makes this mat. And it attaches itself to the host and just steals energy from them pretty much. And that looks like there. That kind of looks like, if it will focus, maybe not. That looks like the start of the flowers. So it has no chlorophyll in it, or very little. That's why it's orange, doesn't need to be green. And it's rooted in the ground, but it kind of climbs on top with these twining stems that are glabrous. So that's an interesting one. Oh, here's the elusive Baja Blast. Compliments of the people who were here last. There's a lot of trash in this river. Algae blooms from the nitrogen running into it from the nearby farms, polluting it, and then subsequently dropping the oxygen levels and killing a lot of the wildlife in it. What's left of it anyway, after we've overfished it. Anyway, there's a couple more plants I want to show you. At least one. Here's Plantain Plantago. You see this in your garden a lot, and this looks like American plantain, which is native. There is also a Eurasian one, which is invasive. Here's the flower stalk. You can find this in your garden, guaranteed, as long as you don't live in fucking Arizona or something. It won't focus, but you can see it. Just go outside right now and you'll see. Here's some silver maple seedling. That's not gonna make it. It's gonna get flooded in the springtime and the winter and die. but it's trying. Here it is. This is American water willow, and it's extremely prolific. It's one of the dominant plants here, but most of it is not in flower. This one is still. Most of it's done flowering. It's got opposite leaves on there, and it's not a willow. It's just called that because the leaves kind of look like a willow. Not really to a botanist, but to the layman. And it's pretty much covering all of this, which is nice to see. It's native, wetland species with some nice flowers on it. There we go. All right, remember to grow native. See ya. Have a good one.